Okay, let us round up our understanding of the sun, and then we can move into what we could say the understanding of the next level, which again could be the molecular structure, even though I already touched ground with this here, as well as understanding the dynamics of our planet, which I also have touched ground with here, because it's really impossible to separate these three layers, because our energy system, our physical form, is aligned with the axis of who we are, the reality field we're part of, and the sun, or we could here say our physical form, the planet we exist on, and the sun that is keeping it running and keeping the magnetic field running via the SMEs, or the coronal mass ejections, running what we call fueling the holographic networks via the solar flares, or the particle burst, sorry about that. And the solar flares are setting the code systems, the code sequences within a reality field with the solar flares, which is why the sun has its different cycles. But this is also going to change. And even though it still appears as if the sun has its solar cycles with 11 years in between, these will change as we go into the original configuration of the outer domain. And there, science will begin to understand they need to do the shift from their frequency-based sciences and paradigm into holographic density, vibration, oscillation, different feature understanding of reality that has nothing to do with the quantum sciences, and they cannot use mathematical calculations and quantum computers to work with this. They need to understand things in a different way. In this video, I want to go through some of the updates that were handed to us here, and so now we kind of got the context of the sun, and then it becomes more apparent the different things that were happening during what we could say from the June solstice, the summer solstice that happened in June, where the sun shut down finally, and then it takes a full 4 weeks in between, more or less, give or take. And that's why, but not always, because you see I've got an update on August 8th and then on August 21st. So that's a little bit, perhaps you could say the August 8th were perhaps a little bit delayed, because we needed to see, okay, what were the ramifications of the sun completely shutting down in the core level, and with that one putting it into its devastation cycle. So what I'm saying is here on August 8th, because it already began there, the core of our sun is still in its upgrading processes from the damaged density 2 configuration, that's what was shut down on solstice or summer solstice, and into the density 2 configuration of the parallel universal matrix. And here I write the matrix, because they did that to begin with. They tried first via the Arcturian technology. Arcturians are part of the LPU and the parallel universal matrix races. They tried first to put this in, and it did not work well. They did not succeed very well. They were basing this upon the Pegasus host fields, which were inserted in 2021, and as I have on the whole project YouTube channel. And the Arcturians were what we call a 7th dimensional race of future humans that had not learned their damn lesson. They were still part of the LPU, still grown out of. Some of them actually departed during the time of Atlantis. Others departed in the reseeding or before the reseeding, because they didn't want to be reseeded. So they are still belonging to the bunch of the regressed races and the failed outer domain features and cycles and all the things that's been going on in reality field. And they have difficulty in changing their ways, which is why, even though they come back from the future, they're still using the same ideas and same perspectives of things, and they will thereby be doomed or deemed to fail one more time, because they have not learned their lessons. They have not come here to clean out and get back on track. They have come here to try and sustain themselves, and by that are using the outer domain in a wrongful way, which will always lead to distortion. The only way that the outer domain configurations do not generate distortion is if we follow the original purpose and function of the reality field domain level we are part of. It is only in density 2 that we can, or the middle domain, that we can build a society or a community. Communities are not able to be built in the outer domain. We are here for a short period of time. Normally, we would only be here for a week or so, and then we would leave again. Normally, we would have a pod and nothing else, and that pod would be ours. I have recordings of my pod here. In the outer domain, and then I would come there and I would have my science projects. And since the outer domain configuration is holographic, that's all we needed. We could create via the pod as a place where we could reside in our own energy. We would then create an environment around the pod that would resemble our rings that we needed to clear and connect to the earlier versions of our reality field dynamics using the timeline or code stream chiasm, clear out possibilities of the outer domain. So that's what we normally did here. We created our entire own field around us from where we would see via the energies of the outer domain what was usable and what was no longer usable. And I'm using the same dynamics in the progression work and the energy work. And as you go further into the higher levels of the energy work and learn to clear out holographic imprints and code systems, you will see that the outer domain energies are showing your entire energy system on all of its rings in the different dimensional features, what you need to clear out. And that's why the restoration program was placed here to begin with. It makes complete sense when you understand the true purpose of our reality field. And that's what you need to reorient yourself into and stop looking at this planet as a great disaster that the enclosure is falling apart, and instead begin to look at, okay, what does this mean? What does that give me of opportunities to upgrade and develop and progress my holographic energy system on the different layers, the 6 layers I talked about in the transition sciences, including the template design or architecture I teach you in the template science courses 1, 2, and 3. So thereby we say the physical vessels is our anchor point in the outer domain. That's our pod now. And there we don't need an Android phone. We have one already that is slowed down. So we need to activate our energy system on what we call density 2 level, even though the sun is no longer there, and then create that field where we can see our expansion field, where we can see all of our different levels via the heart field, the chiasm dynamics, vibrating these code streams up and these code sequences up, connected to the code streams. And then we have, again, here, notice 2 differences. We are vibrating up the code streams of the reality field connected to the holographic energy system that is part of our 6-layered energy system. As we vibrate up the code streams of our reality field via the chiasm, the heart field, we are then able, via the radiation field energies, that is our perception field, to pull forth to pull forth the code sequences that are in what we call radiation symbols, that are little energetic filaments that are coding the code sequences as well as the code streams to unfold the biofield, the original code biofields that are part of any type of light body that we would normally have, including using the same code, biocode fields, to generate a molecular structure or a crystalline structure from where we could compose a more solidified type of vessel. And if we wanted to change that, then that's the sequence. Vibrate up the code streams, create the radiation energy burst from the perception field, that's the mind field in its true version, see the code sequences, and then by that begin to holographically change the code sequences, change the little symbols and their energy filaments, energy units in the vibrational level, and then go down to the code layers of the biofield or the light body, and with that change whatever a configuration we're supposed to be. And that's what we're doing in the outer domain. So that's why you need to go, and that's why I'm also giving this information on what we could say the higher levels of the reality field with the whole project New Reality Sciences, where we begin to understand, okay, if you understand that this is the case, Then you have this again. What was done to August 8th is, and I here can explain this, kind of say, well, all of that has collapsed. And then on August 21st, that's why that is there. Then we were getting our sun, the core of the sun, ready for the 9/9/2022 wave impact, which we had. And their crystal filaments have been built into the core to lessen the solar activity that naturally would follow a high density infusion. Now you completely understand that because I have explained to you what that means. This ripples into our density 1 configurations. The ripples into our density 1 configuration should be minor. That were what they anticipated, but it actually turned out to be of a larger impact because we had not seen the Dark Avatar Collective and what they had put in play on that one, putting in motion their last attempt to take over on August 8th. So with that, and that's explained in their Changemaker Course 4, so I will not put it here. The 9/9 infusion will be the first of many to alter the configuration of the sun, and the goal is to the delay of fall dynamics. And there you can kind of see, well, since that was the first one, that was the absolute last window of opportunity for the dark races, because that's where they could go in and implement their dark core technologies, dark light technologies of a galactic dark core infusion, toroid, Orion, cube systems, or what have you. So anyway, that completely fell apart, and now we are in, at least those of us who have been shifted out of that configuration that is connected to what we say the lesser levels of the dark levels of the third cycle, we have shifted into, again, as I keep talking about, the new configuration, the new YX configuration that are then being amplified by the Gaian races. So we are beginning to have a completely dissimilar energy configuration and genomic configuration than other people on our planet. And that is one of the new alliances that have been forged due to the hit by the dark forces, that if we had not got that from the parallel Gaian system, then on the 1/7 level, then we would not be here today. And we kind of say, well, it just happened during 5 hours. Yeah, that's all it takes. And it took less in the true realities. The 5 hours were actually the trials that were unfolding. And then on September 11th, we kind of, there I put a little bit information in there that explained a little bit about the fifth dimensional subfield of the Atlantic code streams, and that led to a massive clean out that was needed. And this has in turn led to new possibilities for the one ready to do the transition. And for the ones it has pushed them further into the unviable sectors. The unviable sectors are connected to the dark cycles. That's the collectors that will come in from the second cycle during winter time. So when I keep saying the set for the final shift to happen is 12/12/2022, and that's for those of us who are doing the molecular shift. And of course, I am doing the molecular shift because that's the only logic. I'm not dead yet, right? So I have two options. I have already done the progression work to ensure that I will go into the restoration program. But since nobody's interested in letting me go right now, I am set for 2065 or around that time. That's where I'm done here. So it's in my molecular state that I will be upheld until then, for reasons and purposes, due to the hijacking of my template and energy system and why I was put into this body and why I'm here. So I'm not foreseeing my demise right away. And with that, I might as well say, okay, let's explore what's going on out there and then work with the different sciences of what's going on. So with that understanding, when already looking back at August 8th, that's part of the earlier, that's what we call the fourth cycle that is part of the parallel universal matrix. Then we have on August 21, then that is kind of where we began to get the parallel universal structure races coming in and saying, okay, we need to, this is whatever the Arcturians were doing with their 7th dimensional 1-7 type of pillar technology from the Arcturian system is not strong enough to go against the huge impact that is going to hit on 9-9. So we need something else. We need some infusion that is completely from outside this universal structure. And the parallel universal matrix are building upon the old configuration of the LPU. So therefore, they cannot withstand the pull of the dark ones. They will be struggling with that as long as they are keeping themselves on the holographic networks of the LPU, because the dark ones grew out of the LPU. So they're connected to that too. So the only way to get rid of both the parallel universal matrix regressed races and their faulty genetics and flawed genetics of the D13 collective, including the androids and transhuman agenda and all the stuff, the dark ones that are connected to the LPU network, we needed to do a complete shift for the ones, if there were to be any future civilization in the solar system that were part of what we call the enhanced humans from the future under the first version of them with the solar system nations. They have now changed due to the alliance with the parallel universal structures, which they managed to some point in the future due to the recalibration of their gene code sequences from where they have traveled back in different sections over the course of time inside our reality field or inside the enclosure, which has disconnected them from the parallel universal matrix. So they are no longer part of that because they have time traveled. They have jumped the different nodal networks or the different nodal points in the holographic network of our reality and entered into different sectors and different segments of the holographic network where they have altered the genetic composition to be more in alignment with the parallel universal structures that they discovered at some point in the future. And that's the whole, first they traveled back to avoid the 1959 complete demolishing of our planet, which actually the cataclysmic event did happen there. We did have that huge atomic blast that sent out a few groups of humans into space, literally demolished in all levels and forms. And there were the enhanced humans that were living in secret societies at the time, and they went off planet when that happened, assisted by the 1952 Greys that came in. And that future was then avoided, and we got reseeded as a kind of wind back, the re-looping, as I talked about, the Greys are doing on our reality field all the time, re-looped it to a different nodal point so that the 1959 cataclysm, it did happen, but then they shifted everything into a different timeline where everything was re-looped, and then certain events were prevented, certain groups were eradicated, certain things happened, including with the Men in Black and the different types of police humanoids inside our system under the Greys that came in from both the Arcturian system, but also the Orion system and other parallel, not parallel universal structures, but parallel universal matrix races came in to avoid all of these things to happen. That has been playing out until the 9/11 event in 2001, where the different groups on the Dark Avatar Collective began their complete attempt to take over that was supposed to unfold here all year on. Actually, the date was first set for 2012, which were avoided, which we know from the Colontic Sciences. The Sirian Bees under the Colontic Sciences are working the parallel universal matrix. So all of these attempts to avoid the Dark Avatar Collective to take over, because that's kind of where nothing is here then everything is sucked into the Dark Avatar civilizations and their artificial dark matrix that they have created using whatever they could have gotten their hands on inside this reality. So there are these implications and understandings of why the parallel universal matrix have re-looped to such a degree as they have, and why we've been re-looped, and the things that's been going on, the military projects. But all of this failed in 2018 and 19 due to the Orion shifted side to the dark ones instead of parallel universal matrix. So we had this whole who is with who and why is that, and all of these long plannings are falling apart because who were aligned with each other and had created alliances then fall apart due to the infrastructure of the alliances that are getting either regressed or distorted or whatever, and then they must change their ways, and then they align themselves with, due to the laws of energetic and genetic affinity, the races that are in alignment with their energetic and consciousness configuration. That's why these projects fall apart and never come to be. So with that understanding, we also understand, well, we need to change our molecular state completely. The YX chromosomal feature in males are no longer used because that has fallen so many times, not only during the fall of Atlantis, but also in the reseeding after. So the male genomic structure were hit severely by the dark core energies of the galaxy. That's the Y chromosome that got reconfigured into being the dark, connected to the snake around our planet, the dark snake connected to the dark avatar collective, and the X chromosome got then under what we call the control of the scavengers, because the Dracos pulled out in 2020. That was the X chromosome of the males, and that led to the whatever was part of Enki and his groups, his scavengers. Enki pulled out with the Dracos, and then whatever was left there were left to the scavengers, and they have then been raiding ever since on the male genome to create their new type of vessels that they are needing, including the Grey programs. And females under the Enki configuration were under the same overall misuse of their both their what we call natural period where they produce or where eggs are released, because they don't produce it, where eggs are released, ovary cycles, etc., for harvesting and genetic harvesting, both physically as well as energetically, code sequences, whatever they could get their hands on, which females that were under this have experienced as being pulled into the artificial timelines, put in the chair, and all the horrific things they have been trying to recalibrate these females' code sequences so they could be harvested and become part of a new lineage of females within the parallel universal matrix on their parallel Earth. Anyways, it's been a horror show, as we know. So with that, as these females got harvested more and more, plunged into the underworld, and by that got connected to visuals of the underworld and what happened there. So, and of course, these females that were targeted for this were put in situations where they would choose a path that would walk right into the trap of the scavengers, the dark forces, and the Orion collectives, which we have seen and you have heard me talk about several places. So with that shift out now, with the 9/9 on September 9th wave impact and the attempt that failed and the shift now, the Arcturians are now under control of what we call the retirement program and the fallen fourth cycle and the parallel universal matrix. That's theirs now. The third cycle is under the dark ones. This is what we have ended up with. And the males and females that are ready to do the transition into the future human communities under the new version of the enhanced ones, or the enhanced humans, under the parallel universal structures, will get their genomic structures completely altered. And with that, we are now beginning what we call the future human communities and the future human civilizations, which I explain in the Changemaker course 1, 2, 3, and 4, where we as changemakers in course 1, 2, and 3 are focusing on as progressive humans. We're still doing that one, but in course 4, we're saying, okay, these are the new codes sequences, these are the new possibilities that are being given, and can we use this as an opposition? Can we use this instead of the parallel universal matrix, which have taken control of America and will be residing there as their nodal point or anchor point inside our reality, beginning their merge and blend programs? Can we, those of us who are choosing to go the opposite direction, which I have chosen to experiment with for now, as you know, I team up for a period of time and then I'll see where it will take me. For now, it has given what we could say directive to the work I'm doing. I am being more productive. It is, I'm still being hit by the dark races. I'm still DAC, dark. I'm still being hit by the PUM races as well. As people come across with these configurations, it ripples into, it imprints into my holographic field for a time being. but my overall configuration, the technologies that are upholding that links to the PUS are changing. And with that also coming in with new sciences, which I need to complete my minefield, but still there's always the difficulty in aligning with the different system and the reconfiguration and reconfiguring to the different system. That is that due to the laws of energetic and genetic affinity and the laws of participation, then I will become part of that. And the question is if that is productive for my remaining time here, or it will only be for a short period of time, and then use it as a jumping board to get into what we could say perhaps some of the original fourth cycle Lemurian genomic settings, which is my goal, as in I'm just taking a turn there, and then from there I will reconfigure myself and then jump into the Lemurian code streams, which I always said that that's where I belong, because that's part of my projects that I had in the outer domain. That's where I have my pod. So that's kind of how I'm doing right now. How you're going to do this will be up all to you. And with the sciences I'm here giving in this course material, you will decide how you're going to do your reconfiguration. You use the transformative energy system, the progressive sciences, the progression work, and the transition science course material, and the template science course material. So you understand that's how you can recreate what you need to recreate. And as you work more and more with your own energy configuration, your holographic energy system, and your genomic structure, and what you're composed of, and clearing your timelines, your energy system will automatically begin to release its holographic information system that's built into your template and energy system. And from there, you will be instructed by your energy system and by what's left of your original consciousness units, who you are, what your configuration is, which timelines or code streams you should align yourself with, on what level, in what manner, to what degree, etc., etc. You will get the instructions from within, but be mindful. As long as they are simple instructions, they will always be energetically connected to parasites, because it's most likely parasites that are giving you this information. As long as they are connected to emotional choices, they are parasitic. Then they are just infusing your emotional field on the different rings with different enzymes to get you to activate on that level, from where their goal is to get more energy from you, because you're then focusing on them, and they can slither in and out and trick you to produce more energy for them by showing themselves, and then not really get cleared, and then they can remanifest themselves on a higher ring similar to the vertical particles. They gather momentum by your energy work if you don't get them completely the first time, as in both the technologies and the elementals and the code fields and the code streams and the code sequences and everything that are connected to the parasites and how they are linked up via the TGs to your emotional field. So this is the regress genetics we're talking about. So that's how, whenever you see one of these, whenever that comes up, the goal and the effectiveness of your clearing works is to get them right then and there, and not only partially, because then they will come back stronger and more complex the next time, because you cleared out an older version of them, and by that they have been able to recalibrate themselves into a new version due to, for instance, if you're part of the parallel universal matrix, due to the infusions that they are putting in via the blend and their host fields. So the parasites will grow stronger, because the parallel universal matrix races has what we call an interest in getting more complex parasites, because they use the parasites as part of their artificial timelines, and they distort the human vessel to create the parasites, which they then harvest and put into some of their new fourth dimensional bodies after the blend and the merging is done and the pull-outs. And that's what they will harness their genetic composition and their genetic configurations from, because they harness the parasites and then they open up the parasites and then what we call replicate the different genetics that the parasites have, because many of these parasites were part of the original Sirian A technologically enhanced genetics insertions that were supposed to accommodate the reseeding after the fall of Atlantis, to keep people connected to the solar energies and have some sort of density 2 structure within them. That's the TGs, and that's the energetic parasites, which at that time were a symbiotic, artificial, holographic level of the physical form that were inserted, which were in alignment with the consciousness structure of the human at the time. But due to when these bodies died and nobody had learned to remove the TGs and the parasites, then they got recircled in the rebirth cycles, and then they became an entity on its own, and hence they began to producing the elementals and the racial grids from where they could keep themselves, as they had their own quote-unquote mother in the racial networks that would keep spawning them out whenever that energy system came in play in some sort of physical form, all part of the fourth dimension. And these has been some of the things that have been harvested here. So again, the complications of our system is vast and on many different levels and on many different timelines. So hence also the importance of learning to do the correct energy work and be as effective in the energy work as possible if you are to get through these different cleanup processes that are now unfolding, because the sun is no longer fueling these TGs, and by that they're beginning to collapse unless they are connected to artificial technologies under the POM races, or has been taken over by the DAC races and being recalibrated and linked up to new cube technology, from where they will align and be used in the merging of the parallel universal matrix races as they are entering into our reality field, mainly in America, but they will try to get their fingers in other people around the planet. And then we have what we call whoever and whatever is aligned with the retirement program outside of Europe. They will, of course, also come under the supervision of the parallel universal matrices to avoid, and I'm here taking it plural because there are different versions of it, to avoid the takeover of the Dark Avatar Collective. So that's technically what's going on. And then we have the new European communities, the future human communities, under the 5 rings of the lattice network that goes with the latitude, as I have talked about, under the parallel universal structures, or that parallel universal structure system that we now call the Gaian system for short, to make it easy for us to understand what we're dealing with. And with that, getting a completely new reconfiguration to seed the possibilities of the next human races. And of course, we are aware of the manipulation that they're using us to seed this, and they might just harvest the gene code and then leave us to our own demise. Of course, that is always a possibility. Nobody's doing anything here for the sake of us. It's all about the infrastructure of these civilizations, no matter where they come from, their way they are building up their societies, the way that they are running their different rule sets and directives. But for now, the enhanced humans are technically in charge, and they are some of the forces behind the new reality directives that are unfolding in Europe, because as you will see, the reality directives are different in America. You have not yet gone into this whole let us shut down the use of our electric grid and the power of electricity during winter time. You have a different agenda when it comes to the directive that goes with the getting rid of the self-promoting directive. That was the first directive that was put out, as well as the second one that goes with learning new resource allocation. So when I'm talking about the directives in the version in the whole project Changemaker Course 4, then that's all under what we call the enhanced humans, the future human collectives that are what we could say not just enhanced humans, but the future version of the enhanced humans, as they have become part of the parallel Gaian system, where they have taken on a completely different human configuration. They look human, but they really don't look human. Let me put it this way. They are human, but they have features that we don't really understand yet. For instance, they are taller, but humans on our planet used to be taller as well. So they're just taking some of the original human features features that used to be part of the civilizations when we had the 1-7 pillar going in the outer domain, or as well as the middle domain races as part of the Pillar project before the fall of Atlantis and before what we could say the timeline event, because the timeline event, as I said, demolished the 1-7 pillar and the first cycle completely. But we had outsprings or offsprings of these civilizations, which then moved into the second cycle and into the third cycle and the fourth cycle during the times of Lemuria. Anyways, these are complicated stuff. And it's difficult to explain, so it will all come down to, as always, it always comes down to what kind of consciousness units do we have on our template? What kind of energy configuration do we have as in our energy system, holographic energy system? What program were you part of when you entered the Pillar project? Were you part of the after timeline event restoration program? Were you part of the new cycles that were seeded as part of the restoration program, ending with the fall of Atlantis? Were you part of the reseeding after the fall of Atlantis, where the restoration program no longer were put in use, but it came on the plate in Sirian A races and their new reseedings? Or what program were you part of inside the outer domain to undo the events of the past, to clear out your energy system configuration, as well as recalibrating your consciousness units to be able to produce the correct code streams that allows you to reconnect with the original middle domain gate systems that will take you back to the original system you came from before the timeline event, and what that means to adapt and alter your entire architecture behind who and what you are now, to be able to reconnect to these levels of your true being, from where you will have your core, your own core essence and perception of who and what you truly are. So all of that is connected to the different changes in our reality, and that's it ripples from the highest level on the galactic core, on the template level, into the solar level that goes with our vibrational field, into the planetary level that goes with our biofield and our organic forms. And with that understanding, the density 2 level is also connected to the vibrational energy system, the 6 layers of it, which is to clear out the 9 layers of the emotional field, comprise them into 6 layers of higher order complex information systems, as well as the biofield that right now only has 5 layers in alignment with the mental field, which needs to be activated on the radiation level, unfolding to 9 layers, which then also will be comprised into the layers of the original Pillar project levels that you succeeded in and had got the sigil and symbol of, that allows you to operate on that level of a reality field with the composition and knowledge of information that you had earned the rightful way on that level. Or if you were part of some of the other parallel systems that were connected to our solar system in the times before the fall of Atlantis, as well as before the time of the timeline event, and with that have a completely different energy system configuration and a completely different consciousness unit or template configuration. All of these things are challenges in the future energy work that those of us who are shifting into the parallel universal structures, we will begin to recalibrate ourselves with that. Others will jump above the retirement program and recalibrate themselves with their own type of energy system, aligning themselves what's left of these races and their code sequences and their code streams inside the holographic network of the original outer domain configuration and onward and so forth, which is also why I have worked very quickly to get done with what we could say a general level of the energy system as I completed in the progression work material, because we are now with the new configurations and with the shifts that will appear in March 20th in 2023, we will be on completely new code streams where sciences and what we will do will no longer be oriented towards what's happening in our reality field, but it will be focused on what can we add in to the changes of our reality field. How can we use these new sciences to recalibrate our own configuration, but with that and via that, recalibrate the holographic network and its code streams, because we are interconnected as part of this reality, the original outer domain, create a new perception field, clear out our own perception field, our own expansion field, and by that effectively begin to change the holographic network and the racial grids of the original outer domain configuration, which would be the ultimate goal of our energy work, to be able to recalibrate that, or at least portions of it, so that there will be a possibility of what we could say a future human civilization in the outer domain, which will not be staying here permanently, but exist here on planet as science labs, as it were originally, as well as off planet on what we call space stations, as well as other dimensionally connected to the parallel universes that we are to connect to. So that's the bridge. And with that one said, that's also, of course, have ramifications into the different versions of the 2025 timeline. Which direction do you take there? Parallel universal matrix, original density energies, the enhanced humans possibility fields that are diverse. Whatever you're going to do on the 2025 timeline, where we shift into code streams, and there will align with what we technically have built into our energy system configuration. So that's the goal of what we're doing here. Hence also giving you these videos or these podcasts explaining some of the higher order sciences on a general level again, so that you can use these to recalibrate your map of the reality field you're part of, that is lodged into your heart field as well as into your mind field and your biofield. Thank you.